Hi, Clive. Sorry, I'm just a little bit late.
No, you're fine,
Um,
Michelle. You're fine.
Thanks.
Ah,
Bit of a stressful morning. Yes. Great.
well, lovely to see you again.
You too. Thank you so much for setting this up. I really appreciate it.
That's fine. Last time we met was a nice, bright, sunny morning on London's Embankment when you just were about to promote the album Early Year. Uh,
Yes.
you're back in London next week for another chance for listeners to enjoy the pleasures of January skies live, Michelle. Tell us about the show and how people can get tickets.
I'm going to be doing a performance at the Pheasantry Chelsea for Pizza Express Live. This is actually it's been 10 years since my last gig there, and when I did an American songbook concert, and this time I'm performing my own songs, which is great. So you can get tickets from the venue website, also from my website. I also have a special little treat for Solar Radio listeners, as you're all very loyal listeners. And if you say that you booked the ticket after hearing about Solar Radio, you can tell someone on the desk, or you can tell me after the gig. You will get a surprise piece of merch.
Wow.
Yeah, so there's a little goodie in there. So it could be a CD, a tote bag, or a lyrics book. Yeah, it's all subject to availability, but there is a little gift for especially for Solar Radio listeners.
That's
So I'll
very
show you a
kind
little
and
bit.
generous, Michelle. Thank you
So
so much.
here's the little January skies on CD for those of you who still have CD players. I know some people do. I also have my little tote bag for anyone.
Wow.
Very good quality. And the lyrics book if you want to sing along to the album. So, and it has little sketches of when I was first writing the songs, as well as photos. It's like a little storybook of the album.
Okay.
So, yeah,
And the album is also on vinyl, is it not, as well?
it is. So that's available for purchase. Sadly, I cannot give that out as a little gift, but I'm actually running a little competition on my Instagram. So if anyone wants to go on my Instagram and if they want to tag people in the post specifically about my vinyl competition, if they tag someone who they think might be interested in coming to my gig or interested in my music, they'll be entered into a competition to win a copy of the album on vinyl. So I should probably get a copy of that, shouldn't I? Do you want me to show that one as well?
Indeed.
Yeah, just one moment. So, oh, let me show you one I made earlier so that you can I can open it and show it to you inside. So, and this was designed by my lovely graphic designer Stephanie Mill. So here's the front, then the inside, and it's also on lovely blue vinyl for anyone who is interested in coloured vinyl. You have a copy, don't you, Clive?
Yeah, I do. Yes, it's sitting by me here. Yes.
There you go.
Delightful indeed. I never. Let's have a
So
look at the vinyl. Yes. So you can see
yeah,
the vinyl stories. Oh,
exactly,
yes.
exactly.
Delightful.
Yeah. So some people
Pleasures
have
of
a real thing
vinyl.
for blue. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be performing my own songs from January Skies, as well as my EP Melodramas, a couple of new songs that are yet to be recorded, as well as some classics that have influenced my own writing. So from the 60s and 70s. So there'll be a few of those thrown in there as well.
Okay. And with a full band, Michelle?
Yes, so I will be playing. I've got a lovely guitarist, a drummer. It's actually a drummer who I used to work with back in the day when in my first band, when I used to live in London. Keith Barry, a fellow Irishman, on drums, and Marcus Penrose, who will be on double bass, and Marco Piccioni on guitar. So yeah, that's going to
And
be.
the Pheasantry is a very ambient venue, is it not? I've only been there once before, but I found it quite a pleasant place to go to and comfortable to sit in and enjoy.
Yes, it's lovely. It's a bit more intimate than the other Pizza Express live venues, but that's the kind of show I give. It's very much a storytelling experience, so it's a perfect kind of venue for my music.
Indeed. I was going to, you mentioned
Yeah.
storytelling there, and your songs all tell a story, Michelle. Perhaps you can fill us in on a couple of the backgrounds on the songs, including January Skies or My Mother Told Me. A bit more about a couple of the songs our listeners can actually get into a bit more.
Sure. So January Skies I wrote, funnily enough, in January when it was quite a depressing January day in terms of the weather. But I was feeling very much like I wanted to start afresh, to start anew, and kind of leave the old behind, leave the old habits behind. It's also a song of self-compassion and accepting, the things that you have done or bad things that have happened, and realizing that you can move on from them. Also, my mama told me, yes, this is about, well, it's got kind of two stories in it. It's about being a performer and trying to struggle in this industry and trying to keep going. And it's also about how when I'm struggling with these things, I usually go and whine to my poor mother and she has to deal with it. And she always tells me it's all going to be fine. Even if it isn't going to be fine, it's always nice to have someone who's going to, comfort you in that way. So, yeah, that's those songs.
Okay. And the other track I was playing earlier, Michelle, is Miss Chances, which has a far more
Yeah.
bluesy bass to it. A little bit about that one.
So, yeah, I was trying to emulate those songs, 60s songs, the girl groups, that kind of old school soul style. And it is basically about missing an opportunity with someone who could have been really good for you and letting your pride get in the way, and instead of really going for it with that person, trying to save face, but instead you should have probably have taken the risk and let down your guard and just swallowed your pride basically.
Yeah. I'm fully aware of your background, but perhaps you can remind listeners of a bit more of your musical background, which isn't all in the popular and blues music realm, is it? You have another string to your bow, or several strings to your vocal bow, Michelle.
Well, yes, I originally trained as a classical singer. I've always been doing my own songwriting alongside it since I was very young. I actually found some old poems that I wrote years ago. They're quite cringy now, but at the time, I thought they were really good. But yeah, so I trained classically. I studied as an opera singer in a conservatoire, and I've worked professionally as an opera singer. I've worked at the Royal Opera House. I worked at English National Opera and Deutsche Oper Berlin here in Germany. And yeah, but always alongside of this, I've been doing my own music. So you might see a little bit of the theatrical side, or a little bit of the vocals might kind of tend to go slightly on the operatic, but not in a tasteless way, I'd like to say. I don't like to I don't do crossover. It's not crossover. That's a very important point. I'm not a crossover artist. Um so yeah, you might hear it slightly in my voice that it sounds a little bit trained sometimes. But I think it really helps with the more soulful vocals, just really connecting to the body and really letting it rip basically.
Yeah, yeah. So it adds to the versatility of the dynamism of your act, Michelle.
Yeah, exactly. And the performance style, and it's funny. I find in this industry, people maybe think I'm a bit too dramatic, and then in the opera world, I wasn't sometimes dramatic enough. So it's really it's hard to get kind of a happy medium. But at the end of the day, you just got to be yourself
Yes.
and not try and fit in with anything, because people can smell inauthentic inauthenticity a mile away. I think you just got to be authentic, and if you believe what you're doing and you're convinced by what you're doing, then other people will be too.
Indeed.
Hopefully.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So you've taken two or three singles off the album. Is there another single to come from the album? Are you going on to a new project now? You mentioned, alluded to new material earlier on.
And well, yes, I have a couple of new songs in the pipeline. there's one called Dear Berlin, which I will be performing next week. And it's kind of about when you think that moving to a new place or changing something completely in your life, that you're going to get rid of all your problems. But in fact, you actually bring everything with you and you can't escape yourself. Everything, you need to work on that yourself anyway, regardless of where you are, where you're living. And I've got another few songs in the pipeline. They're inspired by a lot of personal things that have been going on with me in terms of women's health, and also a recent ADHD diagnosis in my early 40s, which I had no idea about until last year. So they're going to be inspired by those experiences. So I'm really looking forward to working on those.
Okay, so that's good to hear. So people can expect to be entertained and have their world opened up for them with the proceeds of January Skies and your new material. That's next Wednesday, is it not, at the Pheasantry in Chelsea?
It is, yes, next Wednesday evening. So from 6:30 the doors are open. You can get your table, order your pizza, and then the show begins at 8.
Well, I look forward to seeing you in person again there,
Yes, very looking
really
forward to seeing
performing.
you.
And I hope my listeners will come along as well and buy their tickets and have a chance
Yes,
to enjoy the pleasures of the merch repertoire of Michelle Daly as well.
exactly. No, I'm really looking forward to meeting some Solar listeners because they've been really loyal this year. Well, you've been obviously the catalyst for that. So it's been, really great to have the listenership from Solar. So I'm really be lovely to meet some people in person.
Michelle Daly, thanks very much for your time.